In the 4th century, the future of Christianity hung in the balance. Dozens of gospels circulated. Dozens of teachings competed for authority. Some said salvation came through obedience to bishops and sacraments. Others said salvation came through direct knowledge, gnosis, and awakening of the divine spark within. The second group were the Gnostics, and for the church that was becoming powerful, that was unacceptable. The Nag Hammadi Scriptures, buried in the desert for 1,600 years, were the voices of those Gnostics, and they tell us exactly why the church feared them. But before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to this channel and tap the bell so you don't miss the rest of this series. If you believe these hidden truths deserve to be heard, hit the like button. It really helps keep this community alive. And share this video with someone who's searching for answers the mainstream has forgotten. So why did the church fear the Gnostics so much? First, authority. The orthodox bishops were building a church based on hierarchy. They believed the truth flowed through a chain of command, from God to Christ, to bishops, to priests, to the people. Order and obedience were survival. But the Gnostics taught something else. They said the truth was already inside you. Salvation was not controlled by sacraments, bishops, or councils. It was the awakening of the spark. You didn't need a priest to find God. You only needed gnosis. Can you see why this was dangerous? If every human being carried the divine spark, then no institution could claim to own salvation. No hierarchy could monopolize truth. That idea threatened the very structure of the church. Second, the feminine. In the Nag Hammadi texts, Sophia, the divine wisdom, plays a central role. She is the fallen and redeemed power of creation. Mary Magdalene appears not as a sinner, but as a bearer of secret knowledge. The Gospel of Philip even hints that she was closer to Jesus than any of the disciples. If these ideas had survived, Christianity might have honored the feminine divine. Women might have had equal authority. The balance of power might have shifted. But the church fathers were building a patriarchal system, where authority flowed through men only. The Gnostic vision of Sophia was a direct threat to that design. Third, the worldview itself. The Gnostics claimed the material world was created not by the true God but by the Demiurge, a blind and arrogant being who believed himself the only God. They said the world was a prison, ruled by Archons, designed to keep humanity asleep. Orthodox Christianity taught the opposite. The world was created good by the one true God. To the bishops, the Gnostic message sounded like blasphemy. To deny the goodness of creation was to deny the authority of the church. But imagine what would happen if people began to believe the Gnostic message. They would question everything. They would stop trusting the rulers of the world. They would look inside instead of outside. That would destabilize the church's power completely. This is why the church feared the Gnostics. Not just because they disagreed, but because they threatened the very foundation of control. Comment below. Do you think the church suppressed the Gnostics because they were wrong or because they were too right? I want to hear your thoughts. Now, what did the church do? They canonized Scripture. Out of dozens of Gospels, only 4 were chosen. Out of hundreds of writings, only a select few became the New Testament. The rest were labeled heresy, destroyed, or buried. Bishops like Irenaeus of Lyon wrote long attacks on the Gnostics, calling them deceivers. Councils were convened, creeds were written, and slowly, the Gnostic voices disappeared from history, or so it seemed. Because in 1945, in the sands of Egypt, those voices returned. The buried jars cracked open. The forbidden books were heard again. Let me pause here. The Nag Hammadi texts are not easy to understand. They're fragmented, symbolic, sometimes obscure. But at their heart, they carry a message that still burns. You are more than this world tells you. You carry the divine spark, and no institution can take that away. If you want a guide to help unlock these texts, I recommend the Nag Hammadi Decoded, Hidden Gospels, and the Gnostic Path to Awakening. I'll leave the link in the description in the first comment. Think of it as a whispered map through a forgotten library. So why did the church erase them? Because history is written by the victors. The bishops won, the councils declared, and the empire enforced. By the time Christianity became Rome's official religion, There was no room for Gnostics. Their books were burned, their teachers silenced, their wisdom driven underground. But history has a strange rhythm. What is buried often returns, and when it does, it speaks louder than before. Today, people are turning back to these forbidden texts because the questions they raise still matter. Who holds the truth? Institutions or the individual soul? Is salvation obedience or awakening? Is the world divine or a prison? Is wisdom masculine alone or also feminine? These questions are not just ancient. They are modern. They are ours. So let me ask you, if the Gnostics had not been erased, how different would the world look today? Would Christianity have a feminine balance? Would institutions still control belief? Would we see ourselves not as sinners, but as sparks of divine light? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your vision of the world that might have been. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel for more journeys into hidden wisdom. Like this video if it resonates, and share it with someone who has always suspected there was more to the story. Because there is. In our next episode, we'll explore why the Nag Hammadi Scriptures matter today, not as dusty relics of history, but as living wisdom for an age of chaos and awakening. Until then, remember, knowledge is power, but hidden knowledge is transformation. Welcome to Occultus.